Human scale teams use Tailscale to build trusted networks. Tailscale Funnel is a great way to share a local service with your team for collaboration, testing, and experimentation. Funnel securely exposes your dev environment at a stable URL, complete with auto-provisioned TLS certificates. Use it from the command line or the new VS Code extensions. In a few keystrokes, you can securely expose a local port to the internet right from the IDE. I did this in a talk I gave at Tailscale Up, their first inaugural developer conference. I used it to present my slides and only revealed that that's what I was doing at the end of it. It's awesome. It works. Check it out. Their free plan now includes 3 users and 100 devices. Try it out at snark.cloud/tailscalepodcast. Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS. Sure enough, we have a normal list of releases compared to the paucity of information due to a presumed freeze to cover Prime Day. Let's get into what AWS did. Amazon Code Catalyst now supports workflows triggered by GitHub pull requests. Once again, Code Catalyst is a glorious salmon swimming upstream against the CodeStar suite of disappointing Amazon offerings. Amazon S3 inventory can include ACLs as object metadata in inventory reports. This is a nice enhancement to a sadly critical offering. I wish there were better ways to figure out what lurked where within S3. Amazon SNS, or SNIS, can now deliver mobile push notifications in 12 new regions. This is a perfect example of what I mean when I say that AWS services are not the same in all regions. There was nowhere to go to get a list of which regions SNS push notifications worked within, and there still isn't. You get to try it and see if your application works or not in a given region after deploying it. And that's sad. Introducing analytics on Amazon Lex. The Lex product owner startles themselves awake and realizes that, wait a second, from a certain point of view, it could be considered a generative AI play. AWS is clearly passing out bonuses to services that can tell that story, and thus the moribund service suddenly gets an update. AWS Mainframe Modernization Service is now PCI DSS compliant. This is awesome, except for the fact that when mainframes were installed, a transaction was defined as exchanging 8 chickens for a goat. Best practices for developing an AWS co-sell program. Another reminder that the overriding and possibly only purpose of the AWS Partner Program is to sell you things. Amazon Route 53 Resolver now available on AWS Outposts Rack. At long last, you too can run a DNS resolver on premises. I suppose you've found ways to do that already, or else your on-premises network would just be an elaborate series of space heaters. Reimagine software development with Code Whisperer as your AI coding companion. AWS has tried to sell you everything else. Now they're attempting to sell you a friend to share it with. For some reason, that friend keeps suggesting some very expensive AWS configurations. Oh well, I'm sure it's fine. Orca Security's journey to a petabyte-scale data lake with Apache Iceberg and AWS Analytics. Orcas have been attacking yachts and now also icebergs, apparently. Tired of wrestling with Apache Kafka's complexity and cost? Feel like you're stuck in a Kafka novel, but with more latency spikes and less existential dread by at least 10%? You're not alone. What if there was a way to 10x your streaming data performance without having to rob a bank? Enter Red Panda. It's not just another Kafka wannabe. Red Panda powers mission-critical workloads without making your AWS bill look like a phone number. And with full Kafka API compatibility, migration is smoother than a fresh jar of peanut butter. Imagine cutting as much as 50% off your AWS bills. With Red Panda, it's not a pipe dream, it's reality. Visit go.redpanda.com/duckbill today. Red Panda, because your data infrastructure shouldn't give you Kafkaesque nightmares. Capture clickstream data using AWS serverless services. This is a great example of AWS's great weakness. Basically, every web presence at one point or another wants clickstream data, and AWS's solution is to tell you to go build it your damn self. Why isn't there an AWS endpoint I can have my web property hurl the data towards, and AWS handles the heavy lifting of aggregating, displaying, and surfacing useful insights? Because that's not how AWS operates, and why it'll, in the fullness of time, become an infrastructure player that nobody really pays attention to, while others reap the rewards, by which I mean mind share and margin, of offering complete solutions. Unless they change something, which they should. Amazon's simple email service adds email delivery features to revised free tier. The SES free tier is being revamped, but sadly not in the way that all of the AWS free tier needs to be revamped. It becomes a 1-year free tier instead of perpetual, which means that if you've been using the SES free tier, it's about to start costing you money. Fear not, it's a theoretical maximum of a bit over $6 a month that you'll have to pay. On the other side, you get to play with a fun new capability for free, assuming email deliverability is your jam. It's certainly mine. Service quota of observability across regions and accounts. I would love to know why this isn't just a default display in the organization management account. Removing unassociated elastic IPs. IPv4 addresses are an increasingly scarce resource. Either use them or let them be free. And finally, navigating common use cases spanning AWS GovCloud and standard AWS. My posts on Don't Use GovCloud would have been better if this post had existed before I published it, because this is a tacit acknowledgement that even if you have a workload that needs GovCloud, you need not put every workload there. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Onward.